This is Rudo Radio coming to you from the 559.
Hello and welcome to Rudo Radio, SB Nation and Cage Side Seats weekly wrestling podcast. I am Nick Bond, joined as ever by Mr. Marc Normandin. Mark, how are you?
Well, don't forget our special guest, which is the leaf blower across the street from me, because the lawn service that my neighbor has, apparently they don't have a bag on the lawnmower they're using, so...
Nor did you say they were doing anything with the leaf blower. They were just...
I was just looking out the window, and they're just, like, putting around in the driveway in a circle, like, pushing, like, 6 blades of grass around.
Well, sometimes it's harder to just go down and pick up the stupid one leaf you're trying to get.
Maybe they're getting paid by the hour. I don't
know. So there's a lot to cover today. Mostly, and this was just, we had spitballed beforehand, we wanted to spend some time talking about what's probably the hottest topic of the weekend, or I guess in the last couple of days. The Sami Zayn Ty Dillinger commercial for Sonic.
Nick, that's not what we talked about. Granted, that segment was a perfect 10.
That was the first time I've ever actually wanted to buy. Sami Zayn is really good.
Yes, Sami Zayn is wonderful. And you know what else is great about that whole segment? Nobody implied they wanted to fuck the food.
At any point, no food fucking.
Ty Dillinger wasn't like, these are both 10s because I want to ram my dick into them.
Because like they're creamy and delicious.
Yeah. I mean, I assume that's what made Enzo and Cass officially split, is Cass was really tired of having to bail Enzo out from, like, fucking barnyard animals.
I think he just fucked the dead chickens. I don't think it was all...
Is that better, or is it worse?
I'm not here to judge. This is a sex-positive show, so...
Next caller.
A lot happened this week. We will be getting into Raw towards the end of the show, but for right now, we wanted to get directly into what was actually the biggest story of the past couple of days, which was Carmella fighting for the patriarchy, as I understand it.
Feminist ally James Ellsworth.
I've heard it both ways.
Yeah, that was... Okay, I think the way to put it is that if they had done this with the second Women's Money in the Bank match, or the third, or the fourth, or literally any other version of this,
or a version they didn't spend 6 days or 2 weeks or however long telling us how historic it was going to be historical.
If they had done that, like, it's great. Yeah, I agree with all the people who are like, well, I don't agree with them because they're assholes, but about the whole, like, don't you know how wrestling works? Heel heat. So I get what, like, people are saying when they're like, no, this is great, it's heel heat, but first of all, it's heel heat on creative, and second of all, it's easy for the people who are suggesting those things to say that because the entire history of wrestling is, you know, moment after moment of white dudes succeeding and having moments. So, you know, it's pretty easy to forget that you're very, very spoiled. At the same time, you're very ungrateful.
But I also think that I think part of the problem I found with that interpretation, which I am sensitive to and I understand where it's coming from, was that a lot of it was predicated on the fact that James Ellsworth was A, a man, and B, had any agency of his own, neither of which are true. Like, James Ellsworth is just a blob. He's just like a chinless blob, and that's what they call him. He's like an inanimate object. So I understand the idea that a man was the one who did it, but I think I think that's not taking into account the kind of character that James Ellsworth is, but I understand symbolically why it's insanely problematic, especially given the history of the WWE.
Well, that's the thing. WWE's never given women any reason to trust them or their programming or their understanding of why women in WWE are important. So, what is the difference between this and Santina Marella becoming Miss WrestleMania? What's the difference?
Well, I mean, one, he dressed in drag and pretended to be a woman so that he could get into a match because the competition was less.
Well, it would... Okay, right there. You've got the worst fucking dude on the roster. Worst fucking anybody on the roster.
Oh, you're talking about James Ellsworth. I was going to say, Santina's a two-time Intercontinental.
No. You just said it, though. He went into that because the competition was lesser.
Well, in the Divas division, yes. I think that we're on different planes here in terms of...
I'm saying there's no difference between what Ellsworth did and that, especially if you are coming from the point of view that WWE has never given you any reason to trust them and their handling of women.
But I guess that's where I would say, at least on SmackDown, less so than Raw, on SmackDown, and I think they did, and you can say, well, they were transferring the heat from creative to Carmella, which is what some people said, but I don't think this was an accident. I don't think they were surprised by the reaction. I think they knew exactly what they were doing, especially on SmackDown. Like I said, if this was Raw, I'd feel much different and much stronger, but I feel like I have to give SmackDown the benefit of the doubt in terms of doing what's right by their performers, and especially the women's division in particular.
Man, I don't know. SmackDown does a real good job with their women relative to Raw, but, that's not difficult to do. Especially since WWE's initial reaction to, everyone being upset with them about Money in the Bank and how they treated the women was to do, a pointless parade of women at the very end of Raw, where they got, they got 10 minutes maybe total for the entire division on a show that had a 17-minute overrun.
Mark, they forgot that there were women on the roster.
Yeah, that's been a consistent problem for, the entirety of the company.
Yeah. No, I more meant that as a joke, because I don't understand how Raw... Raw, otherwise, was a decent episode, but the non-inclusion of the women was almost conspicuous until the end. It would have almost been better if they left them off completely.
I think they had planned to. And then they realized, they got to the end and they were like, oh no, we wrote the women out of the episode.
To me, at least you could play that off as intentional, as opposed to, what happened when you had a cluster kerfuffle at the end of Raw. But I think more and more you have to treat Raw and SmackDown as separate entities with separate creative teams and separate...
Vince runs both of them. Kevin Dunn runs production on both of them. They have the same overlords. They have the same overlords, man. They do.
But I think we've time and time again seen that, for instance, I'll use a very specific example. They put the SmackDown Women's title match on WrestleMania over keeping it on the pre-show. They have... I guess
everyone lost their minds.
So I guess that's what I realized when I said it, but I think they understand what they're playing with now, at least on SmackDown. You say they're the same overlords, but I think time and time we've seen that they do things differently on SmackDown over and over again. In other words, how many times does SmackDown, as a completely separate entity from Raw and WWE as a whole, can we at least give them slightly more benefit of the doubt than Raw?
No, I already said, yes, SmackDown does a better job than Raw. That doesn't mean they do a great job.
I would respectfully disagree. I think SmackDown, not just relative to the history of the WWE, but relative to a lot of other wrestling that's been presented for women on television, period. You're judging them by the standard of Chikara, it sounds like, when you frame it that way. That I think it's... And I don't believe I'm the only person that automatically gave the benefit of the doubt to... for instance, Kate, who we previously had on the show, was very adamant about the booking, as I understood it on Twitter, and I don't think...
Sure about it, but now she's upset at the direction they took. because
which is to redo it.
Yeah, because they're redoing it. They took away. She thinks they took away Carmella's heat. So, because her thing was, let's wait it out. Let's see what happens Tuesday, and then I reserve the right to be furious. So what? So are you arguing that it never should have done it in the first place? I don't think they should have done it with the first one. I think they should have allowed this moment to exist because they really promised it. And there's a difference between pulling the rug out from someone's favorite character, like just ruining Sami Zayn's life and making people upset about that, and completely deflating an entire division and everybody who follows it, especially given the treatment they have given that division for years and years. Women viewers are not a character. They are not a story. They are your audience, your potential audience, and maybe your lost audience.
But I don't think that's fair to say that the audience isn't part of the like, they are a character. They always have been. That's what wrestling is. They're one of the people in the show.
That's not what I'm talking. I'm not talking about call response stuff, man. I'm talking about the fact that you barely had a bond of trust, if you had any, with like half the people who could potentially be watching wrestling. And you broke whatever it was, whatever little bit you had, or showed that it's still very difficult to trust you. I feels like a thing where they really could have lost viewers because people are too smart these days to put that heat on Carmella. They really are. And I thought Carmella did a good job of trying to redirect some of it, but like it didn't.
Excellent. Yeah,
it didn't all go back to her. And anyone who chose not to watch Tuesday because of what happened Sunday, they didn't even get to see it. And there's an opportunity cost to what they did, and I think the cost was too high. I love this angle in a vacuum. If they did it next time, great. I think it's great. I think they promised a lot to specific people instead of... Because, you're always... When you set up a match, and you've got, fans of a particular wrestler, there's still always the opportunity for someone to fail. It's not like you've been promised for sure a definite thing is going to happen. And what we were promised here was, regardless of who won, a woman was going to take this case down, and they would have that moment, this big moment, where just for a second they were treated, as equally as the men in WWE. And that was taken away. And that is a very different thing than having someone turn on Sami Zayn or having some bullshit end to a match that keeps Daniel Bryan from taking the title back or anything like that. It's a very different setup.
You mean outside of the vacuum. In a vacuum, I totally disagree with you, but in this specific instance...
The world's not in a vacuum, man. Unless the whole world is the vacuum. In
other words, I think it's fine to push the buttons of... To me... like you said, if this was the second one, it would be different. But I think a lot of wrestling is based on, and this, I think that's what idiots mean when they say, "Don't you understand how wrestling works?" Is that they literally stole that moment from everyone that wanted it. As you are saying, and I think this was pretty much not close to the consensus, but it was had a plurality. Is that it wasn't worth the risk, and I am slightly on the other side of that, in the sense that if this ends up giving Carmella the type of heat that they've wanted for her going forward, and they make Becky into, like, they use the momentum that Becky has from, like, the promos she cut backstage and things like that it's worth it long term, especially if it got attention on next week's match.
This is my issue with this, though, because I don't disagree. I do think there's a path to make this work. I'm not saying there was no way to make it. I was definitely kind of in the middle where I'm like, you idiots, you tone-deaf morons, you better, I'm going to watch Tuesday to see how you fix this. But, not everyone said the same thing. Some people said, fuck you, I'm not watching Tuesday, or ever. And some people said, don't you know how wrestling works, to everyone, because... if they don't,
which I don't think is fair. I think it's a lot more, but I understand where those people are coming from, even if they're idiots.
Yeah, and they are idiots. There's a path to making this work. I'm just not sure if they know what the path is, and the reason for that is they got Carmella that heat that she did not get on Sunday. They got it for her on Tuesday to open the show. They took all of it away before that episode was over. And then they berated her on Talking Smack in a way that, garnered sympathy for her. So she's going to have to...
Her crying while holding the ice and, Sorry, I thought that was funny. I guess I was the only.
I don't know, man. Daniel Bryan was being a little mean, which is weird for Daniel Bryan. Like, I could easily see where people were like put off by that.
I also think that he was redirecting his anger, whether or not that's fair, from James Ellsworth, who he wants to murder.
Yeah.
Like, that almost turned into a shoot real quick.
Yeah. It's just, I think they put her in a very difficult position. More difficult than the one she was initially in that she bounced back from. Because now they took that away from her. The way I think they can make it work is next week she wins Money in the Bank again, but she does not win clean, because then it's like, oh, the odds were stacked against Carmella, and she came back and fought against them all by herself, and now she's a face, because what the fuck? Then not only did you turn a promising heel into a face, but you gave a face the briefcase, which, Jesus, never. Don't do that. Don't ever do that. It's so boring. What they like write a letter that's like, "Dear Sir or Madam, I am planning to challenge you on the evening,"
or a heel turn. But
yeah, that's unacceptable. You know, if they really do something, because Daniel Bryan did that to what, Big Show, after a Big Show Mark Henry match.
I guess here would be my question. Let's say they do the exact same thing next week, except instead of James Ellsworth taking down the briefcase, it's like Liv.
Are you taking my talking point that I wrote from me on my podcast? How dare you, sir? You Ellsworthian motherfucker. Taking my moment like that. God damn it.
Well, I mean, I got the first couple paragraphs in, and then
anyway, what Nick is doing is taking the next thing I was going to talk about, which, if Carmella goes just in her head, you know, like, okay, I understand their issue. Their issue was that a man was involved, and they want to see a woman involved. I can do this. I know other women. And she gets someone to help her, whether it's like Summer Rae or Liv Morgan, because they both really love leopard print and athletic wear, and, you know, New Jersey and Long Island are really close together.
Don't remind me.
Something like that would be hilarious. You know, if like Ellsworth goes to help again, but Becky Lynch stops him this time, and then everyone's like, oh, Becky's gonna win, but then Liv Morgan comes out of nowhere and takes care of things for Carmella.
I was gonna call her Liv Tyler, so I'm glad you...
Yeah, good thing I interrupted. So, something like that. Like, Liv Morgan's not ready for the main roster. I do think Liv Morgan is ready to continue wrestling in NXT and show up on SmackDown as part of Carmella's entourage.
Yes. Which
also gives her a break from the welcoming committee, which makes her look like more than just the person that James Ellsworth follows around. Now she's a stable leader with the briefcase. Like, it's a very different thing, and she kind of has more of an air of authority instead of just being like the one who James Ellsworth happens to be friends with, or closest friends with.
Friend-ish.
That's it. Friend who is a boy, friend who is a girl. That's a good way of having Carmella get her heat back, especially with the promo she could deliver after, which is basically, I gave you guys what you wanted, you got a woman taking the briefcase down. I don't understand what the issue is anymore.
Yeah, and I don't know. I think I found the reaction to be both understandable and extreme, but I understand the gravity of what they were playing with, so I think boycotting, but it's not up to... I'm not going to boycott it. It's not... In other words, like, I won't join that, but I understand where it's coming from. Or not boycott.
Boycott is strong. I think there are people who are straight up like, I could watch New Japan. I could watch Ring of Honor. I could just watch Shimmer all the time. I could watch Jakarta. There's so many options, man. And I wish I had time to watch them all, but... I mean, I know... You know, there's people I wanted to talk to about a story I'm going to do for Cage Side this week, and I asked them, and they're like, yeah, I don't watch WWE enough to do that. Like, I can't give you anything. So, and that's someone I'm thinking of as, like, a prominent voice, you know?
Yeah.
And that's a thing. There are other companies you could watch. I know it seems like if you're very just, like, still in the mode from 5-6 years ago that your options are WWE or Impact, but no. You know, so there are people who decided... I could see it even on my Twitter feed, people who don't normally watch WWE who were going, hey, I'm going to watch because, you know, they're having this women's match. And, oh, look, it's first. That's great. It's the thing I'm most interested in. And, like, that's your moment to hook them back in or hook them for the first time. And by the end of the match, they just went, nope, still WWE. And then they went about their Tuesday, doing whatever it is they're doing.
I mean, I just think that it's, like, to me, I guess for what happened with me when I watched it is James Ellsworth just doesn't register as a human. So, like, I didn't think, like...
See, we view him very differently, because you said he has no, like, form, he is just a chinless whatever. I see James Ellsworth's character as basically the worst aspects of man in one weird-ass frame. So, James Ellsworth is like everything people think is terrible about men. All of it. Like, the only thing he hasn't done yet is grab Becky Lynch and kiss her in the middle of a match like Ric Flair, but guess what? That's probably coming. So... He's the worst embodiment of all of this shit, and then he's the asshole who goes and takes it. Oh, yeah,
I've always thought of him as Jerry Smith from Rick and Morty. Like, he is just this pointless blob of a person who will, like, just show you ass. Like, he doesn't get what he's doing. He's a delusional slug.
But doesn't that make it even worse in a way? Because you've got this guy who's the dirt fucking worst, who means nothing. And he climbs the ladder with ease, takes it down, has time to even, like, gloat with it in his hands, gives it to Carmella, goes over to the refs, tells them what's what, grabs a microphone, declares that the match is over. Like, what? How come he has so much power over here? Oh, I know why. There's a great image from the end of the match, great photo that I looked at, and it was like, oh, here's Ellsworth and 3 dudes who are refs all deciding the fate of this women's match. Like, they all took it out of their hands.
And I love that Carmella doesnn't care. I guess, like, I actually...
That's great. That is great. And like I said, if this was the second one, it would be different. But...
Yeah, I mean, I think we're going to go round and round on this one, but...
20 minutes into this or whatever. So.
Yeah, so I think that it is unreasonable to think that they did nothing wrong, but I don't think this was the... And that might not be a fair barometer. I don't think this was, like, horrific, and it wasn't even in the top 50 worst things they've done on Raw to women in the last 2 years. Like,
that doesn't make it any better, man.
No, that's... I guess, like... But I mean, we could talk about TNA, what they did with women performers. Like,
it was a turning point.
WCW. Yeah.
It was a turning point, and I think they punted it. And the only way to save it is to get really meta with this shit, like I suggested, and really make it about, like, okay, you want to see what happens when a woman is doing all this? And then, just go from there. And it'll really help get Carmella, especially if, like, Becky becomes champion at some point, and, Carmella cashes in, and Liv and James Ellsworth are what make it happen.
And does it... I guess and this will be the last thing. Does it matter if James Ellsworth gets his comeuppance in a very real way from Becky destroying him?
That's the thing. I need him to just get absolutely obliterated.
It doesn't even have to be in the context of a match for me.
If it happened Tuesday, that would be wonderful. Like, if James Ellsworth is just there and they just beat the shit out of him, and, like, Carmella goes to climb up the ladder or something by herself until someone turns around, but, like, Becky is too busy just murdering Ellsworth. I'm fine with all that. I know there's people who want to see a straight-up intergender match, but considering Triple H's response to all the Money in the Bank controversy was he doesn't think it's a big deal because they're still trying to figure out if Ellsworth is even a man. Weird. I don't think they're going to treat that with the kind of, seriousness and gravity it deserves.
Yes. Yeah.
That was another thing, by the way. That's your reaction to putting out the fire, is to do that?
It's the reality I read, bro.
Man, but, if Vince did that, everyone would go, well, yeah, it's Vince. But, like, dude, Triple H. Not even in a... Even if you're going to think something like that, and, God, Lord knows the wrestlers in their 40s probably do not have the progressiveness of the wrestlers that are in their 20s.
That's a really nice way to put it.
Yeah. You're the eventual heir to this company. You are the on-screen... Like, fucking watch what you're saying. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Yeah, that actually, out of all of this, has bothered... knowing that was the response bothers me the most.
Yeah, because if, like, that's what Triple H is saying, what the hell is Vince saying?
You really don't.
Yeah,
I think they're a public traded company, they probably will. You will never hear that. So are you ready to move on to?
Yeah. I mean, emotionally, I'm still a little messy, but
yeah. So that's what I meant. Are you going to be okay, or
yeah,
can we talk about? Okay, so I thought was interesting was that there was a complaint that the first two matches of the show had I guess what you'd call fuck finishes, like just bullshit finishes. But to me, not just in a vacuum, but together, because I don't think, and like you said, there's a bunch of other complicated stuff, but let's say, for the sake of argument, that was the second Money in the Bank match. Mm-hmm. That's a fuck finish, but it's still a winner, like a definitive winner.
Oh yeah, no, that's great. It's a no they're right when they say it's a no DQ match, and that wasn't specifically against the rules, and they're like, haha, loophole.
Yeah. And but I think that the fuck finish, as it were, for the New Day Usos match was perfect. It was a really good way to end that match with the idea that, like, the Usos are playing like they're hard, and the New Day actually got in their face, and they backed away. Like, that is the perfect kind of Triple H chicken shit badass heel that the Usos should and need to be.
Yeah, and it was smart of them, too, where they realized, like, oh, shit, we're not going to put him away. This isn't as easy as we thought it was going to be. Which is, I honestly think, is fair with New Day, because, like, there's a lot of reasons to love New Day. Putting on, like, real hard-fought, believable matches is not always one of those things.
Yeah, they can have a good match, but this was probably their best match I can think of. Yeah,
this was, like, fast-paced, because usually when New Day flies around like this, there's a bunch of other... It's not a straight one-on-one tag match. It's when they do the multi-team tag matches, and, like, they can fly in and parachute and do whatever, like Big E just going around destroying everyone's stuff. So the fact that he was doing that in this setup was great. And then they realized, like, oh shit, even without, like, Xavier Woods cheating or whatever on the outside, you know, we are outnumbered.
Yeah, and I can't get over how good the Usos are. Just
so good.
Like, they look like whichever is the one that doesn't braid his hair. He looked, I said this to you, if they had, like, John and Alex or something like that, I would have no, but the fact that they have, like, alliterative names messes me up, something fierce. Whoever the bigger one is looks like a champion. Like, not the...
Whoever the bigger one is.
Whomever the bigger one is.
Okay. Jimmy is married to Naomi. And you can remember that because his real name starts with J.
Don't they both start with J?
Yes, that's the joke.
It's so hard.
But his name is John. Yeah, his name's John, and he's married to Naomi. Yeah. Yeah,
they're basically identical twin brothers. It's very hard for me. Like, I could not pick, like, I could be friends with them and I would have trouble separating them.
The announcers can't pick them out. Like, ever, anyway.
Like, at least they used to have different color, like, outfits. So you'd be like, oh, Jay's in the blue and Jimmy's in the red. No, not at all.
So I know which one you're talking about. Was it the Uso who wrestled Big E this week? In a singles match?
I think so.
That's Jimmy.
Yeah.
That's Jimmy. That's Naomi's husband.
Yeah. I think that is who I'm talking about. Yeah, that dude looks like a champion. Like,
yeah, it's one of them is a little more swole than the other.
Yeah, exactly. He's got that, like, damn, I would not want to mess with that dude in a million years look.
They did not look like that when they had the shorts and the face paint.
No,
they looked like a tag team then. But now with, like, the fucking hats and the Day 1 is 8 shirts.
Yeah, they're really this is a Nikki Bella level improvement, which is crazy because they were already at, like, probably future Hall of Fame tag team. Like, they are starting to get in the discussion of best tag teams of all time now.
I like them a lot. I have a lot of faith in this heel run. Because, man, they were really, really popular, multi-time Slammy Award-winning tag team as faces.
Yeah, crazy popular.
It's like, oh, shit, they're way better now.
Yeah, and they are just becoming what they will be for the rest of their careers. Like, this is a much more realistic long-term characterization of these two than we're Samoan guys who like to dance and then wear bright stuff and go hard in the paint. We go hard in the paint. Do you get it?
Yeah, I get it. I get it, Usos.
I just thought all the way around, I thought this was a really good match. And I thought that they did a good job on SmackDown of extending it in a way that, like, I understand that they do we're going to have a singles match between these two. But, like, the New Day really did beat them. Like, it does make sense that they're going to beat them. They are, for all intents and purposes, as good, if not better, than a team. So it's not like when you have, if Fandango kept, like... I guess they did, but it was I'm trying to think of if Heath Slater and Rhino kept losing like they would, or Wade Barrett would be the perfect example. Like, that is different than this because you knew for a fact they were going to win the title match and they were probably going to win it relatively clean. Where, like, with this match, the New Day is as dirty as the Usos are. The Usos aren't these, like, wild cheaters. They're chicken shits, but they're not even like the Revival. So, like, they're going up against a team that just breaks the rules just as much as they do. So there's not this weird, like, I don't know. I thought it was very well done. I think they're evenly matched, and I'm excited for them to continue the feud, but I don't want the New Day to win the titles. I'm just going to come out and say it.
Yeah. I'm kind of disappointed that Daniel Bryan told the Hype Bros that they have to beat the Usos to get the opportunity to face the Usos. Why didn't you just have them fight New Day and beat New Day, but, like, as a way to be like, okay, let's see if you're, equal to the task of being number one contender, face the New Day, and then, like, you will get the next shot after Usos New Day is finished. Because then you create a situation where it's like, okay, Hype Bros beat New Day beat the Usos. You've got a next feud set up already, if you're going to have the New Day win. And even if you're not, then it's like, oh wow, well, I guess the Hype Bros... Will the Hype Bros be the ones to stop the Usos? Because they earned it.
And I know other people have mentioned this, but Mojo Rawley on the microphone is unbelievably good.
Yo, Stone Cold praised him for that. So
he is like an act. They are like, I mean, he's not like some sort of Shakespearean. He's like Daniel Day-Lewis, but like he is present in a way that a lot of guys aren't.
He is the Daniel Day-Lewis of bros.
Yes, that is. I can't think of somebody better. Maybe Zac Efron. Efron. I don't know how to pronounce it, but
he's not.
Or David Franco? Is that James Franco's brother? I don't know. They're all handsome in their same generic way.
I think just Mojo, because Mojo's hype levels haven't dropped. So
no, and he's like a weird, because he's such a larger than life human being. They don't have to make him this wacky person. They just let him be like, he's a hardworking athlete who likes to party. Like, that is the pinnacle of professional wrestling.
Yeah. He's very 80s.
Yeah, and I think he's getting good enough in the ring that I could see them having his hand held in a major... Like, I don't know how to say this, but I feel like the reason they don't have them face the New Day is because they're going to have them break up. The Hype Bros are
I don't know. See, I thought there was some hesitation with Mojo when Zach was like, "Yeah, I'm back to be a tag team." But then they won their match without any problems, and they were back on the same page. And Mojo's like, "Yo, next opportunity is a tag team. Let's do it." So I don't know anymore. Plus, I know it's a different show, but like they just broke up Enzo and Cass. So how many marketable tag teams with charismatic faces? How many of them can you break up right now at the same time? They've got T-shirts to sell.
Sorry, I'm going through the rest of the pay-per-view. I'm like looking, and Mike and Maria Kanellis.
Oh my god! Let's talk about Mike and Maria.
Do you want to talk about Naomi and Lana first? Or you want to just jump right into?
Oh, no, you've already got me on the Mike and Maria thing. Let's just do that first.
Mike Kanellis. I don't know Mike Bennett from Adam.
Oh my god.
This was amazing.
Oh my god. What's even better is that Maria actually took Bennett's name, like, in real life.
Mm-hmm.
So she's Maria Kanellis Bennett. But in wrestling, they're like, no. It's great. What I love is the enthusiasm he had when he explained that he took his wife's name. That was so great. I love
and
that they have
JBL's reaction was like just the right amount of like confused dad of just like, I don't get it. Like, he wasn't even mad. He was just disappointed in Mike specifically.
I love...
He took her name.
I love the microphones, that they have their own microphones, because it's like they're ready to give a TED Talk on love at any fucking moment.
They are giving a TED... Their entire performance is a TED Talk on love.
That's the thing. Like, people said, oh, they're just going to be like Miz and Maurice again. And I'm like, no, they're the most barf-worthy parts of Miz and Maurice, because they're literally saying they are professionally in love. That is so very good. Different. It is very different. And did you hear the lyrics to the song? Because that theme is incredible.
It's the greatest love of all. My love for that song. And I say that... I say this as someone who came out to Glorious as the song my wife and I were introduced to at our wedding, so I know from which I speak. This is the greatest song of all time.
It's so fucking cheesy, even for professional wrestling.
If this were available when I got married, this would have been the song I came out to.
Nick, one of the lines is, when they ask if the fire is going to eat us alive, I tell them I think we'll be just fine.
It's so stupid.
It's so amazing. I love it. I love it so much.
It's like the professional, like, it is the perfect professional wrestling equivalent to a power ballad from the 80s. Yeah. Like, it is to... Professional wrestling is to mixed martial arts the way this song is to every power ballad from the 80s. Like, there's even, like, parts where they're basically, like, like, they don't have lyrics for, like, half the song.
It opens with that unnecessary solo, which is especially unnecessary because the rest of it's a ballad, you know?
Yes, exactly.
They're like, we're gonna fucking shred about love. What's great is I made a motion that no one can see, and at the end of the motion, there were devil horns. And I didn't even mean to do that. That's just the power of this song.
It's good. There, from what I understand, I don't know. Again, I know Maria because she was in WWE, but from what you've said, this is going to be like a top-notch act.
So, like people,
and they're an act, right? Like, it's much more of like a vaudeville kind of thing. Like, that's the sense I get. Is they're like, in other words, probably at no point will they separate them anytime soon.
No, initially
they're packaged. The
rumor was they wouldn't sign. This was a couple years ago. This was before they went to Impact. They wouldn't sign with WWE because WWE wanted to put Mike in NXT and they wanted to put Maria back in the main roster. So they went to Impact instead of Split Up. So like. I'm sure there's something in the contract that says, like, no.
Yeah, like, we are not working on separate shows. We might work in separate storylines.
Yeah, it's something. So I like Mike Bennett a lot. I know there are people who don't like him who watched a lot of Ring of Honor, but I saw him on the Indies at the same time where no one liked anyone in Ring of Honor. And every time you'd see them on the Indies, you're like, oh, why aren't they good here? I mean, why aren't they as good at Ring of Honor as they are here? So he was just kind of, like, lost in that. Like, he came to Beyond Wrestling, he did a whole thing about how, Beyond doesn't pay its people, and he's, like, a big-time guy who gets TV time, and he had some real good moments against, some of Beyond's, like, normal standouts, and it was fun, and I like the Kingdom. Again, I know that's not everyone's thing, but, like, Matt Taven was great, and they played off each other really, really well. I don't know. I like Bennett plenty. I'm very fascinated to see where they put him, in the long run. Mm-hmm. Like on Raw, he's absolutely not just a guy, but you know how picky they are about like who goes anywhere near the main event. SmackDown, on the other hand, has shown a little more open-mindedness about that. So, in a year from now, I'm curious where he would sit because, man, he can be such a shitty heel asshole, and if they're going to condescend about love to everybody all the time, that's only going to help. And Maria's great. Like, Maria as a mouthpiece is... Everyone should want that. And since WWE's not New Japan, they won't have a camera actually locked inside her ass at all times to film.
Is that something that happened?
Oh my god, dude! You think Kevin Dunn is bad? I mean,
Wait.
New Japan had a storyline. The entire storyline was that Carl Anderson couldn't pay attention during matches when Maria was around. That's literally.
I've seen Maria. Totally makes sense as like a caricature of a real human. You know what I'm saying? Like that is a story. Like she is beautiful enough that you're like I could see that working as a storyline.
They lost the New Japan tag titles because Carl Anderson started chasing Maria around.
Well, that's less than ideal, but
yeah, but that's what I'm saying. It's like that's the level that New Japan works at.
So so what you're saying is what they did with Carmelo was totally. So you love that. I enjoyed it a great deal despite not knowing them. I mean, knowing Maria, but not knowing them. I'll tell you what else I enjoyed. Lana was decent.
Lana, I forget who tweeted it, but they're like, man, Lana would really fit in like a 1982 women's match in WWF.
Yeah.
Like, she was perfectly competent. She grounded Lana she grounded Naomi, which, dude, that's what you have to do, because Naomi's gonna fly around and hit you with her hips and her ass and her legs and her fists and whatever part of her she can get to hit you. And Lana, like, came in with a plan, and it worked. And, like, yeah, it was boring, but it was boring, and I'm not saying she's this level, but, like, that is what a boring Samoa Joe match is, too. He grounds you, he chin locks you, he works the legs, just keeps you down.
Yeah,
so,
when when I was thinking of this match, it was like, I want to see something from her that makes it look like she could go somewhere with it, and she definitely could. She understands the psychology of what she's doing better than a lot of people as green as her, and I think once she actually starts to get... And actually, I have to give credit, and I've been thinking about this a lot. The announcing team in general on both shows is, I think for the first time in a long time, like, good-ish. And Booker T on the preview show actually talked about how Lana has a lot of experience with the psychology of matches. Mm-hmm. And that because she spends so much time with Rusev, like being there, like, and it was like, I had not like, I'm sure I had mentioned that once at some point, but like, it was an actual insight. And I think they're getting better at like telling the stories of these people in a like, I hate to use this term, but like 360 kind of way where they're actually treating the analysis they're making like actual, like, this is the story we're going for in the match without making it sound like they're doing an exposition dump.
JBL, this isn't a negative, but JBL essentially, to me, gave away who was going to win that match. And again, it's weird to say that as a not negative. But the way he was talking about Lana and how surprised she was at how good and how competitive she was against a champion like Naomi in her first ever match made it clear to me that the plan here was to put over Lana as, oh wow, she's better than all of you gave her credit for. She's better than we gave her credit for. She's better than Shane and all the women she's going to be wrestling gave her credit for. But, that's like, doesn't mean she's going to win, but they went so hard with that it was like, it was kind of nice and comforting to hear that in the match, even though I felt like it gave away to me like what the outcome was going to be.
And Naomi looked just amazing. She was like, she made Lana look really good, which was the other half of what I was hoping for. Like, just a really strong match from two people. Lana looked like somebody who could eventually be like something, like a jobber to the stars type of person on the women's division. Well, no, I mean, like, I understand. I'm saying when the roster expands. I don't think she'll ever be on Naomi or Charlotte's level, but I think she...
Oh, yeah. No, I get you.
Yeah. Because they were mentioned in a bunch. They're getting, like, 32 women for the women's tournament, the Mae Young Classic.
Yeah, who knows how many of them will actually come over and what.
But even if they get 5, or 6, that's 3 more on the show. That's like, what? Increasing the roster by 50%.
I mean, I wrote about this a little bit before the match where wrestling is not about who can, like, being a good wrestler is not about who can do the most moves and who can do them, the most crisply. It's about being able to tell a story in that ring. And she's capable of doing that. It's like you said, the ring technology, she's capable of doing that. As long as she is an acceptable wrestler in terms of the moves and everything, and she kind of stays in like her lane, she looks to her strengths. She'll be fine because she gets such a reaction
And it's deserved. She's really good at her job. It's never been like, because you look at Sable. Sable was terrible. She couldn't talk. She was just gorgeous. But in a way that seems so plastic and fake now, like, Lana is very pretty. I don't think it's unfair to say that she's very pretty, but they allow that to inform her character without it being her character.
Yeah, there's a lot more there. I mean, everyone chanting "We want Lana" wasn't necessarily like, it wasn't just because she's hot. Like, part of it was because
exactly, she's a good character.
The reaction her and the Rusev were able to generate, and people realized that it was like getting to Rusev that they were cheering for that. You know, not to go back to the Sable route, but you know, that's kind of what got him and her and Marc Miro to split.
Well, they have a much stronger relationship. So.
Yes, yeah. Brock Lesnar's not honing in on it.
Oops.
No, so yeah, I think, like, if Lana is ever someday women's champion, that's fine.
Yeah, I wouldn't burn the place down.
Yeah, she's got so much other stuff, and she's supposed to be a heel anyway, that who gives a shit? Because that just makes you want to find someone who's going to beat her. I'm glad it wasn't, Sunday.
But I guess, and before we move on, this is what I want to ask. I don't feel comfortable with Naomi asking for a second match.
I like it.
I just think it's dumb. Like,
you know what? It's fine for a face. They can't all be Neville, who's like, I'm not going to face you.
Oh, okay, yeah. In terms of, like, but I know Naomi's just going to go to the well one too many times and lose, and I really don't want Naomi to lose the title, because I worry about her getting back to the championship again for a third time.
Think about this possibility. What if the show opens with the ladder match immediately, and Carmella wins again, and Naomi has a match with Lana, and it's real close, and this time, Carmella cashes in.
I'd still be annoyed, but it would be better. I really like Naomi. I root for Naomi in a way that I don't usually root for performers. Mm-hmm. So, like, I would actually be disappointed if, like, I would Marc out. Does that make sense? Like, that would be deflating to me if she were to lose the title. Like,
she's got to lose it eventually. She's a face. That's what they do.
Nope.
Lose.
Nope.
Buddy. I'm sorry. They lose. They lose. That's how it works.
All great face tag teams and face champions, they never lose. Hogan didn't lose for like 7 years.
Here's the sad thing. If Naomi did lose, there is not a single face champion in WWE right now.
Yep. That's the other thing, is I think you kind of have to, like...
Do you have to, though? Because I feel like SummerSlam is always this opportunity for the heels to win, with WrestleMania being the course correction. So
all kidding aside, I am fine with her losing at SummerSlam. I don't want her losing before then. Unless it's to a Money in the Bank situation.
Yeah, well, that's
different.
Passion.
The cash-in supersedes anything in terms of that.
It might also be good to kind of put a lot of this in the rearview mirror and start working on the next thing. And they have 2 briefcases, and Corbin's not going to actually cash in until there's a face with the championship, John Cena, which will be, SummerSlam?
Yeah, so, I can't wait for him to cash in on SummerSlam. That's going to be great.
Yeah, I mean, Cena winning against Jinder, and then Corbin immediately cashing in on him would be amazing, especially because...
Yeah, like a really hard-fought match against Jinder where he barely wins kind of thing.
Yeah. And normally you'd say Cena would win easily, but at SummerSlam, he doesn't win there. I think we talked about this offline. The last time John Cena won a SummerSlam match was in 2010.
When he single-handedly beat the Nexus himself.
We think that he single-handedly did it, but like looking back, I'm like, everybody else got eliminations. It wasn't because I really, in my memory, in like my mind, I was like, Cena eliminated like 5 of those dudes by himself, 2 of them at the same time. It just really felt like that because he took a DDT on the concrete and kicked out of it, and then like avoided a 450 and took out Barrett and Gabriel.
Yeah, they're 2 best guys.
So yeah, it just felt like that. But no, other people got eliminations. His other team, his non-Bret Hart teammates, were very useful in many capacities.
Yeah, I've been doing, which eventually I'll talk about more, a breakdown of all of the different people that have been in main events. And for every other competitor in the history of the business, I have individual things. For the Nexus, outside of Barrett, I literally just have the Nexus. It's like, you guys are not worth even getting into. Because even like Skip Sheffield, who eventually became Ryback, was explicitly not Skip Sheffield when he came back. They were like, no, that never happened. Those are two different things.
Yeah, it's... yeah, it's okay. Cena's been so good since in very, very many ways.
Yeah.
But SummerSlam is the place he loses, so it'd be fascinating if he beat Jinder and then immediately lost. Just to, like, keep the cosmic equilibrium. So Cena could be like, no, I still have to win at Mania. Please defeat me now.
Jinder will not lose the title either. He is the modern-day Maharaja, and he will reign for 1,000 years. Well,
I hope. Although, poor word choice in today's climate.
I guess my question would be in this. Can we please fucking be done with Randy Orton versus Jinder Mahal? I liked the match. I thought it was good.
Dude, have you seen the rumor of what might happen with them?
No. What is it?
It's 2 words. Both of them start with P.
No, they're not.
Yes. Yeah, they're thinking about it. for Battleground.
I will say this. Completely honestly, I love the Batista Punjabi prison match.
I mean, I would love to see one without Great Khali.
Yeah, and I really genuinely love, because he jumps from, like, Batista should not be jumping from one thing to another thing at all. Like, to me, that is the match where you're like, God damn, Batista's good. Like, he got like an almost decent match out of the Great Khali in a Punjabi prison match.
Yeah, I think they could do a Punjabi prison match that is better than whatever the first Orton Mahal was. We should say, by the way, that match was good. The one they had at Money in the Bank. That was good.
Yes. It was an actively good match.
That was a good match. And especially with, like, Mahal using all of the old dude's moves. That was hilarious. Just, like, trolling, A, I'm WWE champion, B, I'm hitting your boy with your moves, how does it feel?
And I thought that even the ending was, like, just the right amount, just the right mix of, like, giving the crowd what they wanted, and also just completely making Randy Orton look like an idiot who cost himself the match.
Randy Orton got into wrestling so young he never had time to watch any. So he has no idea. He doesn't know. He's like, wait, if I let Jinder just nap the entire time. And God, there was this problem. Not a problem. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. There was this problem during the Money in the Bank, the men's Money in the Bank match too, where like AJ Styles and Shinsuke just decided, oh no, we're going to wrestle now. And I'm like, Baron Corbin is being powered by his hatred of indie wrestlers right now. He's taking a nap and dreaming about that. You guys are letting him get back to full strength.
Yeah, come on, guys. Get your shit together. Get it together. Put it in back.
That Money in the Bank match was dope, by the way.
Yeah, this was a really good... I really liked the show. I was disappointed by the idea that the Ascension were the people that ended up beating up Breezango. Just because I think the American Alphas would have worked a lot better. And especially for what they used the American Alphas for, which was to, like, get eaten by Kevin Owens after pretending to be from Ohio.
Well, that was a pretty dope match.
It was a good match, but, like, I want them to be in the tag team, like, they should be competing for the tag team championships, not losing clean to the United States champion.
I don't know. I kind of like the idea of them sticking as a unit, but, like, fighting for singles shit. Because that, at some point, means we'll get Jason Jordan versus Chad Gable. And without even having, like, a turn or loss of friendship, just, like...
So, almost like a camp. Like, American Alpha is their camp.
Yeah.
In that, like, they're a stable of fighters that kind of police themselves, kind of thing.
Yeah. It's like... I think
that's what they go for. Absolutely, it could work.
Yeah, I think that's great. Especially because, man, they're so talented, and, like...
Unbelievably talented.
The tag thing did not grab people... the way I think they get over in NXT being real goofy. They really, like, that's the moves helped and everything, but it was like how these goofy ass bastards are amazing in the ring.
Also, their friendship,
yes,
and was a really important part of them. And you already have that; they're already friends.
Yeah,
so you can't have the origin story of their friendship again, which was genuinely beautiful. It was like a really well done story about male friendship.
I would love to have them just Like, we accept that they're friends, and we get some tape stuff that shows off some of that. Like, but they're still friends. It's not about the origin of their friendship, but like gives us some background into them, and really like fleshes them out and gives us, you know, like completes that picture. But let them both just be dope as hell in singles matches, because like Chad Gable lost, but Chad Gable got to be Chad Gable, which he hasn't been able to do in a long time.
And I said this before, to me, Jason Jordan's the most talented guy physically on the roster. He's
I love Jason Jordan.
Unreal. And he's a good character. Like, he has potential to be like a top-of-the-line main event star in terms of like he's a 5-tool player.
Yeah, I love Jason Jordan. I referred to him earlier today in a video script as future WWE World Champion Jason Jordan.
And I totally agree with it. We did a mock draft a while ago, and he was, I think, my number 1 pick. He's incredible. I have the highest regard for them, and I would really love that to be what they do, is like a stable, like a camp of fighters who just go out and beat people.
Yeah, I'm into it. The tag division's so crowded. I mean,
exactly.
It's fine to just take them aside. Instead of taking them off TV, be like, hey, we're going to be dope over here in singles matches. And they don't have to win right away because things are crowded, but, man, Gable got in a lot against Kevin Owens. Like, yeah, he lost clean, but he came at him hard. That was a multi-segment match. It looked good.
Yeah, I mean, he's an incredibly talented performer. Like, both of those guys are just off the charts good. So the fact that they're having good matches with great performers like Kevin Owens, you kind of have to. You would have to actively shit the bed to not have a good match with Kevin Owens, I feel like. Yeah.
The alternatives to them doing single stuff right now is take them off TV, have them wrestle the Colognes 700 times. So
is that bad?
Yes. And I like the Colognes. I have no problem.
The tag team division, not including the American Alphas, is just exciting. Like, the Ascension are the worst team, and they are the longest reigning NXT champions.
Yeah.
Like, you could do worse.
Speaking of long-reigning NXT champions, Bo Dallas, buddy, what you doing?
Wait, you didn't want to talk about the Money in the Bank match?
Fine. I mean...
Well, I don't really... Nakamura looked great. AJ Styles and Nakamura is going to be a match at SummerSlam, and Baron Corbin is the goddamn future, and nobody thinks otherwise.
Dude, Baron Corbin laying out Nakamura beforehand is great, because he's one of those people who watches wrestling. He can't escape a roll-up to save his life, but the beauty of the Money in the Bank match is nobody can roll him up.
And then subsequently immediately win the match. He can be rolled up. It's just no purpose. Yeah. And they did a good job of making Shinsuke feel special by having him start separately from everybody else.
It's literally the first time the main roster has made Shinsuke feel special, besides when he first showed up.
Yeah.
And, I mean, they had that problem again this week, where him and Ziggler actually had a good match on SmackDown this week. But you know what? Like, I don't...
Mark.
I don't... Don't worry, I'm still going to criticize it.
No. He murdered Ziggler with that knee.
He did it. He absolutely did. And what was great is...
the stiffest I've ever seen somebody.
Dolph he wasn't surprised by it. He started to swing his fist as if he was going to block it with his forearm. I don't know if you caught that, but like he whirled around like he was going to hit Nakamura before he got kneed, and he just ate an entire knee.
It was gorgeous. I still hate Dolph Ziggler, but thank you for that, Dolph.
And I thought it was a real good match. It was much better than their pay-per-view match. But why is Nakamura taking so much fucking damage in WWE? I mean, if that's not who the character's going to be, okay. But it just seems like he's getting a lot.
I feel like we underestimate how much they like Dolph Ziggler, and how the WWE is different than every other place. Like, in the sense that it is implied within reason that everybody is kind of like, there are power levels, but like anybody can beat anybody on a given day, and sometimes you have to articulate that if you're never going to have a guy lose like Shinsuke, by having him actually have to work a match against somebody like Dolph Ziggler.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know, it's still a little close for my comfort.
Oh yeah, because we both don't like Dolph Ziggler. Like,
I mean, NXT does a really good job with this kind of balance of like showing that someone is not completely invulnerable, but also there's no way you're going to beat them.
And I feel like we don't trust the WWE more than, and I think this is a trust thing. Like NXT, we knew for a fact they were like, there's nobody, and I guess, but they did have him lose to Bobby Roode, which was crazy to me. Like Bobby Roode is like,
yeah, but it was very specific how that happened too. Bobby Roode just destroyed his entire leg and arm.
But then he did twice, right? He won twice. He beat,
same deal both times.
Yeah. So I feel like they're not going to have him be that, but they're going to have him be like, if he decides the match is over and you haven't beaten him by then, you're done. Like, because he does that one move where he just hits you as hard as he can with his knee in like your midsection, and then that's where the rest of the match goes from.
I would love to see Nakamura versus Roman Reigns.
Oh man, it's going to be so good.
Like, I know there are others maybe, but I feel like Roman Reigns is at his best when someone hits him for real. And Nakamura will totally hit you for real.
And enjoy when you hit him back for real.
Yeah, just let that happen. Won't be a lot of headshots because Nakamura hates those.
So I can you explain to me?
Sure.
Speaking of Roman Reigns, why that awesome match was not the last match of the night? Like why they had the Enzo Big Cass breakup as the main event of their show?
Because they know 3 hours is too much time, and
is that what it's coming to?
Maybe they've just decided that they're going to really build up hour 2 is hour 3, and then hour 3 is for the real diehards.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I'd be fine with it, because then the nights when I'm like, yeah, this is good.
Yeah, that match was exceptional. The Roman Reigns Samoa Joe match. Roman Reigns
so much better than their first match too.
Yeah, I mean Roman Reigns and Samoa Joe are both guys that seem like, though they can both have an off night, that if they're both clicking, they're going to put on a good match with anybody. And they were both clicking, so it really worked.
Only thing disappointing about any of that in the surrounding on Monday was that it's clear Samoa Joe's going to lose to Brock Lesnar now, which is fine. It would have been nice to have Joe and Brock go, more than one round, but now that Braun is back...
Braun!
Yeah.
That was the other thing. You bring back Braun, I guess, based on your interpretation, which is they're basically poo-pooing the third hour from now on. That just makes more sense to me that they have to, because I remember distinctly watching the Roman Reigns match and being like, wait, is it 11 o'clock already? Like, did I lose an hour? And then noticing, like, no, it's 10 o'clock.
It's okay, the first hour felt like it was 2 hours long, so...
Wait, did you not like Elias Samson?
No, that stuff's great.
He's really, him and the interaction with Finn, and then Finn and Bo, who you mentioned earlier.
Excuse me, greatest NXT champion of all time, Bo Dallas. Please refer to him correctly.
Bo Dallas has always felt like he's always felt like somebody who should be way better than he is. Like, not as NXT champion, but past that, he feels like he should be something at this point. And I don't blame him. I blame creative.
Oh, yeah. He crushes everything except for when they finally stuck him with something where he's like, this is stupid. I mean, the thing he's in now is incredibly stupid, but I'm also into it because Miz has
the Bears.
Yeah, Miz has made everything that he touches great. Miz got people to like Alex Riley.
He's, if you look at his track record, he made R-Truth a main eventer.
Well, technically, TNA made R-Truth a main eventer.
Against The Rock and John Cena. Like, he is the ultimate, like, I don't want to call him a vampire, but, like, he will siphon all of the heat off of you while simultaneously, like, being the engine that pushes you forward.
Remember when people thought that Sandow was the reason that, like, The Miz was entertaining again?
It was like, no, it's them working together because he's a perfect foil. He's a perfect foil.
And then Miz went to Impact and was terrible and no one wanted him to wrestle anymore? Oh, wait, sorry. No, that was Sandow.
Yeah, he weird guy.
Yeah, in the park or whatever, buddy.
I do have to say that and I think we can end on this. Enzo and Big Cass breaking up was almost worth the 17-minute overrun. Almost.
I struggle with this, okay? Because I think it worked. I think what they did worked very well. But then I'm kind of like, what if Cass just straight up murked him like while Enzo's doing his spiel? It felt like there would have been more emotional impact, even if he explained things after that. Because like Enzo was just like, "What the fuck just happened?"
And you could have done the exact same segment, but what you would have done is introduce the 3 suspects, had them each plead their case, and then have those 2 come out. And you have Enzo start doing the thing, and he says, "Hit him with it, Zoe," and then he clocks him.
Yeah.
I thought that the idea was great. I thought the execution could have been, it could have been constructed 100 times better.
We didn't need the footage of him.
But they needed to include Corey Graves, and that's the problem with Corey Graves. If there is one as like a non-playable character that's still important, is like, that would have worked a lot better if he would have not had the first 10 minutes of stuff.
Yeah.
But then you can't have because that was the problem, is the segment went on too long. It should have been a 8-minute. It should have been a 3-minute overrun. It was a.
Well, it would have helped if Kurt Angle actually followed up on saying he knows who did it, instead of getting the ring and being like, "Okay, fess up. Which one of you did it?"
So wait, yeah, and here's the other thing I don't get. Did Kurt Angle know the entire time that Big Cass did it?
I don't know, man. I'm still assuming that like Corey Graves was showing Kurt Angle how to use Tinder.
Grinder, maybe,
And he's like, "No, Kurt, you gotta swipe this way." Dude, oh, God. Kurt.
I have her cell phone! Yeah.
Kurt's Tinder photo is just him with a tiny cowboy hat.
Ooh, sexy.
It's only the tiny cowboy hat.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to what Big Cass does going forward. I don't know why I said it that way.
Where does he go? Where does he go?
Straight to the top.
Really?
Yeah. Oh God, yeah. He's going to be a main event.
Who's in the main event scene right now, though? Is there room for him?
He's going to kick his way through.
I mean,
I don't know. I think he's.
Finn Balor is wrestling Elias Sampson next.
Well, Big Cass is better because he's big. It's in the name, Mark. Bigger is better, especially with Casses of different kinds.
Yeah.
No, he's going to be. I think he's going to be. He's probably going to be on a Survivor Series team in the main event.
Okay, that's a long time away. I'm just curious what they're going to do with him.
They're probably also going to have him feud with Enzo going forward for this little bit. Except Enzo's going to have to talk the Big Show into being his surrogate because he'd get murdered.
Yeah, that's also interesting. Where's Enzo going to go? I mean, probably should go to the cruiserweight division, if anything, to get people to watch 205 Live.
Yeah, and he is a very talented performer. He just in the context of that tag team, although I understand it's what got him to the dance, it was never going to work long term. He was either going to have to become his manager or they were going to have to break out. There's no way that tag team lasts. He's too annoying.
Yeah, it's a weird thing where I'm like, wow, Cass is really a dick for turning on his friend, but at the same time, he's entirely justified and correct in his reasoning.
He shouldn't have done it the way he did it.
Yeah. He should have just been like, "Bro, we have to break up as a tag team because, you suck. Except be nicer than that."
Or even, once he noticed there was a problem, be like, "It's ruining our friendship. We can't be a tag team anymore."
Yeah. Just lots of little things. But no.
Just a bad friend is what I think we're saying.
Yeah. Yeah. Oof. Well.
And Enzo, I feel like, is a talented enough person on the mic that he will land on his feet one way or the other. I don't know if he ends up being a manager or something like that, but I have more of, if I had to pick who was going to be in the company in 5 years, it's Enzo. If I have a choice, if I have to pick, if I had to bet on one of the two being in the company in 5 years, it's Enzo. If I had to bet on who has more potential to be champion, Enzo's off the board. And Big Cass is probably pretty high up there. So I feel like that's the difference between the two. Is either Big Cass is going to work out or he's not. And I think based on the promo and some of his in-ring work and where he's headed, I I think he has potential to be a future world champion. I think Enzo is going to be a fixture for the company for a long time.
Yeah, we'll have to see where Big Cass's ring work is right now, because he's really made a living as a hot tag, and he's so good at it. But where we got to see what all the in between is, and what it's like when he actually takes damage in a match, because that's really a thing that Enzo is a punching bag, and then Cass never gets hit, and if Cass does get bumped or something, they lose. That's what happens. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see what happens now that they're solo. And if he's going to just get inserted into the intercontinental scene at some point. I mean, that depends on who the champion is and all that, too. So,
you mean Cass, not...
Yeah, Cass. No, I thought I said Cass.
No, you did. I just wanted to double confirm in my, out loud, that you weren't talking about Enzo as an intercontinental champion against Dean Ambrose or... No,
I would like to see Enzo versus Neville and have it last exactly as long as Neville wants it to. He just kind of steps in his neck at the bell.
Sorry, I'm just thinking about Neville murdering Enzo Amore.
Yeah. Sorry,
so
Enzo.
we have to wrap up.
Sure.
So,
what are you doing? What's the holdup? Why are you waiting?
Oh my god! You're so Mark. Where can they find you on the internet? It's not here.
Well, they can find me here because this is going to be straight out fine. They can find me on Twitter at Marc_Normandin. That is Mark with a C. They can find my wrestling writing daily at CagesideSeats.com and around pay-per-views at SBNation.com/wrestling.
And you can catch me at The Nixter. That's THEN1CKSTER. Suckadaska. That's 800 times in a row. I got that right.
She is going to show up someday and destroy
you. Not if I never watch NXT again.
No, she'll... Oh, wow, now you're taking from her livelihood.
Listen, I gotta do what I gotta do. She's a dangerous...
So does Asuka. She knows where you live.
You can check us out at soundcloud.com/Rudo Radio. You can rate, review, and subscribe to us on iTunes. I would have to assume that our review this week is going to be The Greatest Love of All. Or This Was the Greatest Love of All. Is that fine with you?
Yeah, that works for me.
Yeah, okay. And I guess if there's nothing left to say, the only thing left to say is... Bye.